NBC's David Noriega is in Vegas. John Ralston is the CEO of the Nevada Independent and has been called Nevada's election oracle. Joining me here, Elise Jordan, a former aide in the George W. Bush White House. Both John and Elise are MSNBC political analysts. Okay, John, your paper details what has been happening with these poll watchers. What more do you want to tell us about this?
Well, this is a pretty outrageous and obvious technique that they're using now. Chris, these are the same people who with the state Republican Party, who made the false claims of election fraud in 2020 and now are claiming to be acting on behalf of the public to restore faith that they destroyed. So the fact that they would put on a poll watcher checklist to make sure that the machines are not connected to the internet is absolutely ludicrous. Will they be checking to see if they're hooked up to those Italian satellites as well? Chris, this is very insidious, and it's a way for them to say that they've done all this in case Trump loses Nevada. They can then say that they have reason, again, to suspect fraud. And so this is pretty obvious what they're doing, and I'm really glad that we were able to get this story out there.
Are they really asking for serial numbers?
They're asking for a whole raft of things, including serial numbers of voting machines. They want to make sure they're all secured properly. They want to look and make sure that ballots that are being rejected are actually defaced. The implication is that the poll people who work for the elections department are not doing their jobs properly, and that may be the reason that Republicans might lose. It's absolutely outrageous, Chris, that they will be doing this, because what they're doing again is raising the specter that the system can't be trusted without one scintilla of evidence.
Elise, full disclosure, you and I have spoken previously about how both of our parents worked at the polls. He talks about the implications for poll workers. This might not only be happening in Nevada, because we know that the Trump campaign has said we have more than 1,000 poll watchers, volunteers, lawyers to make sure that this election is free and fair. What effect might this have? What kind of pressure might this put on the folks who are working these elections?
Well, it certainly could be intimidating, but I do wonder if these people are fanning out to different regions that they don't know, how will they even be received by the local people there? So there's a lot going on with this plan that doesn't seem fully hatched, but this is overall, this goes with the political legal strategy that they're employing of the lawsuits to cast aspersions on the election results, and they're laying the groundwork. And this is yet another example of that, what they're doing.
Meantime, David, Donald Trump will headline a Las Vegas rally tonight. Tell us what you're hearing on the ground.
Yeah, Chris, so this arena behind me is where Donald Trump is set to speak this evening. It is, by the way, right next to the airport, so if you hear airplane sound, that's why. The Trump campaign and the Republican Party are focusing a lot of attention on Nevada and on Arizona because they think they can flip those states away from the Democrats and to the Republicans. They've been gaining ground with some key demographics in these states that were historically part of the Democratic coalition. Young voters, voters of color, working class voters. Now, the Harris campaign is trying to refocus the narrative away from the messages that have been resonating with those voters, like the economy and immigration, and on some of this recent reporting in The Atlantic and then the New York Times, in which his former chief of staff, John Kelly, talked about the way that he praised Hitler and Hitler's generals and so forth. For example, the DNC has a mobile billboard here in Las Vegas today highlighting some of that reporting in The Atlantic. Now, the question I have is, will that messaging reach the kind of still persuadable, that very small number of persuadable voters in this crucial state? I want to tell you about a person that I spoke to outside this rally earlier today. He's actually not here to attend the rally. He's here to market a moving company, to hand out business cards, basically. Youngish guy, 42 years old, lives in Nevada. He told me he's never voted in an election before. This will be his first election, and he's pretty sure he's going to vote for Donald Trump. So I asked him, how do you feel? Do you care about this fascism reporting, the reporting tying Donald Trump to Hitler and so forth? Take a listen to what he said. Have you seen any of that? Has that crossed your radar?
I've heard that, yeah.
Okay. What do you think of that?
I think it's politics.
Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
I think when you deal with politics, you have lots of agendas and people say things and you don't know who's paying them to say things or you know why they say things or what the reasoning is, and that's it.
So you don't particularly care about that news, that report?
I don't believe it.
So, Chris, look, each campaign is betting on something different, right? The Trump campaign is betting that people like Ben, low-propensity voters that they've managed to win over to their camp, will in fact go out and vote on November 5th, not just, tell reporters that they're going to go out and vote or pollsters. The Harris campaign is hoping that messaging, this messaging that they're focusing on in the home stretch of the campaign, might turn some of them off, prevent them from going to the polls, or maybe even win them over to their side. It's exactly the kind of gamble and exactly the kind of push and pull we're not going to know the outcome of until those votes are counted after November 5th. Chris?
Thank you so much for that. So, John, look, you know Nevada politics better than anyone. I say this every time you come on the show because it is true. You've called Nevada's early vote so far a rural tsunami. What's going on?
So, if you remember back in 2020 and even to an extent in 2022, Republicans were very much against, starting with Donald Trump, mail ballots and early voting. But they realized that they had made a huge strategic error. So now they're encouraging their voters, including in the rural counties, which are the deep red counties of Nevada, to vote early and to vote by mail. So that has allowed them to have a real turnout advantage so far, which is very unusual in a presidential year. Chris, as you know, the Democrats usually build up a big firewall, as I call it, in Clark County, where all the Democratic votes are. That's not happening this time. Now, we're only 5 days into 14 days of early voting, and it could change. But what's also true is that the Republicans usually win Election Day here by a lot. They are clearly cannibalizing some of that vote by having all of their people or a lot of their people vote early. So it's a little bit too early to make any definitive pronouncements, but the numbers look strong for Republicans now. But talk to me in a week and it may be different.
Well, let me ask you about GOTV, because we keep hearing how much money the Kamala Harris campaign has, how many offices they have, how many paid employees they have. What are you seeing on the ground?
Well, there is the legendary Reid machine, which still goes on even after the 2021 death of Harry Reid. It knows how to do this. The Culinary Union, as you know, Chris, has a massive turnout operation. So you would think that the Reid machine versus super PACs or Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk, it wouldn't be a fair fight. But they've hired some pretty good people on the Republican side now, including Chris Carr, who used to work for Donald Trump and knows this state very well and helped the Republicans elect their first Republican governor here in decades. So they have some professionalism. But if you're going in a turnout versus turnout, party by party, the Democrats are always ultimately going to have an advantage.
Let me ask you a little bit about that, if I can, Elise, because you do focus groups. You talk to people all the time. I have spent probably 10 campaign cycles going door to door to door with people. It is always so interesting to me that people can be persuaded if they'll answer the door, right? If you walk up to them and they're mowing the lawn and they'll stop or whatever. But what is the importance of knowing what ground game is in place in these closing days?
Well, it's the low propensity voters that we're hearing about. It's those voters that you really need to turn, that you need to go out. One thing that I've heard just writ large about the ground games in the country right now is that the Republicans have really outsourced a lot of their ground game operation and their get out the vote to these outside groups. And so they do not, it doesn't have the professionalism that a normal election cycle presidential get out the vote would have. And so the Democrats, by contrast, really do have a better turnout machine in in just how they've organized so far. Whether these outside groups are going to be able to fill the gap, that remains to be seen for Republicans.
Right. Elise Jordan, John Ralston, always great to see you. I don't think I'm going to make it to Nevada this year, but hopefully you'll come back on the show.